Hey everyone, so this is the video going over the exam and just the parameters of the exam, what to expect, what is expected, all that good stuff. So this is for the midterm exam. The rules and expectations will be the same for the final exam. The only difference is the terms and the essay questions will be different. Everything else will be, the directions will be the same, the amount of things you'll do will be the same, and the time will be the same, and the points will be the same, and everything except for the content of the exam will be the same. So this video should help you for both exams. Now, as you can see, this is your midterm study guide for fall 2021 semester. Okay, so first up, you have the identification section. Now, some of you may have never done identification on an exam before. As you can see, there are some specific instructions. So 10 of these terms, I believe it's either 10 or 12, I think I managed to get it down to 10, will be on the exam, and then you will choose and identify 6 of those and explain their significance in American history. Your answers should establish who, when, where, why, and so what. So what is the most important. That's why does it matter? Why is it significant? You know, that is the so what is the biggie. So you must base your answers on course readings, lectures, and discussions. No outside sources are permitted. If there is a document that we've read that is key to this term, and this is also on the exam instructions themselves, if there is a document that is key to these terms, for example, and as I'm looking at our list, I see a vast majority of those terms do have documents that go with them, like a bunch of these. It's almost like I designed it that way. So several, I mean, off the top of my head, you know, Tenochtitlan, that's the Aztec place, right? So we had some Aztec stuff. Pueblo Revolt, Bacon's Rebellion, just several of these. So any of those that has a document that goes with it. All of those have a document that is specific to the term that needs to be cited. Now, citations, okay, start from the beginning. You cannot use your notes or your books on the exam. It is closed note, closed book. So you'll need to study carefully. You might want to take this list and put extra spaces between them and take some notes on the who, what, when, where, why, and so what. You could do bullet points for your studying, but the identification needs to be written in paragraph form. You'll see that on the example in just a minute. Now, that means that you don't have to cite formally, okay? So it's going to be kind of like some of our participation exam citations. I mean, participation assignment citations. So, for example, Bacon's Rebellion, that was Voices of Freedom, number, I want to say 15, I believe. But you might not remember that. That's okay. You can say parentheses VOF, parentheses Bacon's Rebellion document, parentheses VOF document. So all that stuff works, right? And you'll see in our example, or our example answer in just a minute, that the citations are pretty informal because I don't expect you to memorize every single little bit. You need to tell me what you know and pull from the sources that are relevant and necessary to explain the document. And again, you can do that in an informal way. That is fine. You need to just remember the main content that you're going to use to talk about it and explain the who, what, when, where, why, and so what. For your document, you need to, study that and internalize it and be able to explain it on the test. And you need to kind of remember where that information came from, because you might have some lecture citations, you might have some Give Me Liberty citations, you might have some Voices of Freedom citations, or maybe you just read it on Blackboard. We had an American Yawp document. You just put BB, depending on what term you're looking at. So you would do, like I said, half of these will be on the test. You'll pick 6 of them. So, okay, I think that explains that, maybe. I have an identification example answer for you, so let's take a look at that. So the example I chose for our identification example answer is the Proclamation Line of 1763. This is a key term on your outline for week 5. Yes, I think it's week 5. So it's obviously not going to be on the test. It's not on the study guide. It's not going to be a term. Now, the content here may be relevant to you as you are answering an essay question or a different term, but the term on its own will not be an identification question. on your midterm exam. So I'm going to read through this. As you can see, I've written out a paragraph. It's got to be in paragraph form. So as you study, it's okay to make those bullets, but again, got to be paragraph form when you actually write it up. And as you can see, it's one decent sized paragraph, counting 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 6 sentences. My example answer for 132 is 2 short paragraphs. That's probably like 8 or 9 sentences. It really just depends on how much space you need to fully answer the question and incorporate the needed materials. So that is really it. In terms of length, there's no required length. Some students might be 4 sentences. Some students it might be 6 or 8 or 10 sentences. So it really just depends on you and your style and how long it takes you to answer the question. So we're going to go through this one time, and then I'm just going to read through it once, and then we're going to go back through and unpack it. Okay? The Proclamation Line of 1763 was created by the British government after the French and Indian War and Pontiac's Rebellion. The line prohibited colonial settlement west of the Appalachian Mountains. After Pontiac's Rebellion, a revolt carried out by Native Americans who wanted to keep their land after the French and Indian War, the British created the line to appease Native peoples. However, it enraged British colonists, and they ignored the new policy. Violence broke out between the two groups, leading to worsened relations on the frontier. More importantly, colonists' anger at the British for restricting their access to land began a process of resentment and conflict that later led to the American Revolution. Okay, so let's go through it a second time. We're going to break it down. The Proclamation Line of 1763 was created by the British government after the French and Indian War and Pontiac's Rebellion. That is what it is. It's Proclamation Line of 1763. That has a date, so you don't necessarily need a win on this one, but I did give a win with after the French and Indian War and Pontiac's Rebellion, and I also mentioned the British government, so there's your who. It was created by the British government, right? Second sentence. It's also giving context as to what's going on, but second sentence. The line prohibited colonial settlement west of the Appalachian Mountains, so that's what it did. So that's a little bit more of the what, and you can see there's a Give Me Liberty citation. Again, it's informal. It doesn't have a page number. It just says GML. After Pontiac's Rebellion, a revolt carried out by Native Americans who wanted to keep their land after the French and Indian War, the British created the line to appease Native people. So that's the why. That's the why it was created, and you can see that I've cited the Pontiac Speeches document for Voices for Freedom, Voices of Freedom number 27. Again, you could do that as Pontiac document if you need to. So again, there are no page numbers. It's very informal. I'm giving you, say you're the instructor, I'm giving you everything I can to answer the question. However, it enraged British colonists, and they ignored the new policy. So that's from lecture. That's a little bit of, the what's happening to set up my so what that's coming in the next couple of sentences. Violence broke out between the two groups, leading to worsened relations on the frontier. More importantly, colonists' anger at the British for restricting their access to land began a process of resentment and conflict that later led to the American Revolution. So that's the so what. So for the so what, you can see I've zoomed out to pull that significance. The why does this matter? Why are we talking about this? So it's not just the line, right? It's not just something that was created at the end of the French and Indian War, right? It leads to worsened relations between Native peoples and British colonists on the frontier, and because the colonists are resentful of that line and its creation by the British, it begins a process of resentment and conflict that later leads to the American Revolution. This is cited, this restriction of landholding is cited as a grievance among the colonists as they begin to revolt against the British government the next decade. So this is a big so what, right? It's kind of starts this process. It's very significant, and it's worsened relations for Native Americans and the British colonists on the frontier. So those are your two so whats. So again, it's not just it was a line, it changed a map. It's bigger than that. It's a bigger thing. It's so what? Why does it matter? So I've zoomed out a little bit of the line itself and talked about the bigger picture of what this does, right? So there's your so what for that. Okay, so that is your ID example. All right, and that is up in the folder with this and all the other exam stuff. Okay, so that's the ID bit. All right, so remember that you need to include any document that's really important to it, right? And I'm just looking at this list and I see most of these. It's almost like it was intentional. Most of these are connected to a document. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to scroll down to the essay portion. Okay, this is the other 40% of the test. You are going to, there are 4 questions here, as you can see on the study guide. 2 of them will appear on the actual exam, and you will answer 1 of them. Okay? Again, this is not open note, this is not open book, so you're going to want to write some things down as you study, but then it's going to be you just kind of going for it. Okay? This whole test is designed for you to show me what you know. For example, if I scroll back up here, let's say, just trying to pick one. Let's say you know Bacon's Rebellion, you know the so what, but you can't remember where it was or exactly when it was, but you know there was a document in Voices of Freedom. You remember there was a document, you remember the so what of it. Give me that. Give me whatever you can, okay? This is designed, again, for you to show me what you know and for me to give points where I can. So you give me what you can give me, and I can give points where I can. And keep in mind that some of these might help you with some of the essay questions down below. Okay, this is a time for you to showcase your knowledge and really analyze these terms using the evidence provided in class. Essay questions are going to be the same thing. You're going to spend like a little essay, and you're going to spend time showing me what you know and fully answering the question. So you want to make sure you answer the full question and you use the course materials as your evidence. Okay, think of it as almost like an engage. Okay. So we've got questions ranging most of the first half of the semester. So that first question addresses the very first, couple of weeks of the semester. It talks about colonization. The second question asks about the changes in British policy after the 7 Years' War. Gee, that ID example answer might be helpful. In what ways did Americans respond? All of these you need to cite proper sources. The third one is a question about women. They were increasingly coming to believe that they too had a right to knowledge, discuss the various arguments being made in the late 18th and early 19th centuries by women regarding their changing roles in the new republic. So again, some terms above may help when you answer these questions as you're studying. The fourth question is right on that week that we take the exam, because it's about the market revolution. What technological advances knit the East and West together in the early to mid-19th century? How did these advances change the lives of farmers, slaves, and women? And again, make sure you include appropriate sources when you answer all of these, whichever question you answer for any of these questions, and make sure you use a little bit of everything, including those primary documents. I would say two of these are going to be on the test. You're going to answer one. If you pick 3 of them and study for 3 questions, then no matter what, you're going to be able to use some of that on the test. So instead of studying for all 4, which you can if you would like, I'm not going to stop you. So for example, say you study for questions 2, 3, and 4, and only questions 1 and 2 end up on the test. Well, you've studied for question 2, so you could just answer that one. Playing a numbers game to not have to study for all 4. That's just an idea. So as you can see, the instructions here say that you need to have a clear thesis statement and argument that addresses the question. So your argument is going to be your answer to the question. Okay? So for example, explain what you think was meant by the statement, illustrate the various ways European conquerors settled the New World, commenting on what worked, what did not work, and the consequences of those methods. How you answer that, your answer to those, like your simple, straightforward answer, that's your argument. And then you're going to spend the rest of your essay backing it up with evidence. Okay? Let's see. You need to be coherently organized. So I would say when you start the test and you get to this section and you see what questions are available, I would say maybe, you can either do it in the box, in the test, or you can do it on a separate scratch sheet of paper. You could bullet point out the points you want to make and the things you want to include, and then write it. Okay? So, let's see. Yeah. Okay. So, that is the midterm exam. Real quick, I'm going to go into where the test is living, which is week. So the exam is going to be due 11:59 p.m. Sunday, October 10th. It's in week 8. So that is where all of this stuff is. It's got its own midterm folder, but the exam is going to be due at the end of week 8. So that's again Sunday, October 10th at 11:59 p.m. And it says, I'm looking at the instructions, you have 105 minutes. So you have an hour and 45 minutes. So you have almost 2 hours to take the test. And let's see, so you're doing 6 of these. These usually take students between 10 and 15 minutes per thing. Okay, so 6 of them, it's about an hour, maybe a little more than an hour. And then you have 45 minutes or so to write an essay. Okay, so this is what I mean when I say it's going to be really important that you study and do some prep beforehand. Now, you cannot use those materials on the test, but if you have studied and prepared and have an idea of what you're going to talk about for these things and what you want to include for these things, then you're going to be all set to do a really good job when it's time to take it. Okay, so I think that's it. Of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Now, in that folder, well, in this folder, if you're looking at the video, right, called Midterm Exam, you've got the study guide, you've got the AD example answers, so both documents we just went over. You have this video. So in week 8, the test opens up at midnight, October 4th, so very, very early, and then you have until 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, October 10th to take it. So you have the whole week. You only have one time to attempt, but you have the whole week. So if you work or have family responsibilities or anything, it's not just you have like one day, you gotta take it sometime in that day. You have the entire week to sit down and spend an hour and 45 minutes taking the exam. So you have that entire time. You get one time to attempt. Again, you have an hour and 45 minutes to take it, but you can't go back out. You can't like look at the terms and be like, oh, and then leave the test and come back in. You will not be allowed to get back in. So I like to have it open for that whole week so that if you're working or you have family responsibilities or whatever, you can carve out time to take the test. It's not like you only have one day to do it. So, but you have, once you do it, you have that set one time for an hour and 45 minutes. So please be aware of that. Of course, if you have any questions, please contact me. Remember that we have office hours, email, and Google Voice. So lots of ways to get in touch with me if you have questions. Or if you are looking at an essay question and thinking, oh, I think the best way to answer that is to talk about this. Maybe I should ask Amanda. Send me an email or pop into office hours or text me or call me via Google Voice or use my office phone number if it's during regular hours that I'm here. And I think that is all of that. So again, contact me with any questions. If you have any issues while you're taking or submitting the exam and it kicks you out, contact me via email immediately. If it is a Blackboard issue, contact Jolt as well. Okay, I think that's great. If you have anything else that comes up as you're studying or getting ready to take the test, please feel free to contact me and talk about it. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. And good luck on the exam.